My mother was not June Cleaver. My mother was not Carol Brady. Although during my elementary school years, we did have a huge blended family. My mother was more Roseanne, before Roseanne became Roseanne. My mother could out-curse any sailor at any time at all. But she would threaten us that if she heard us cursing, that we would have our mouth washed out with soap. I'm sure you've heard that. But she would also follow that up with one of her favorite lines. That's not a threat, that's a promise. Yeah. So our life was interesting on occasion. She had some rules. One thing that sort of relates to not a threat, it's a promise, is we were not allowed to drink from public water fountains. She may have been ahead of herself at the time, because here recently we haven't been doing that. We could drink out of a hose, but we could not drink out of a public water fountain. And if she knew we had done it, we would have to gargle with hydrogen peroxide. You know, the bubbles coming out of your mouth, the whole thing. It was horrible. Well, growing up, our life was not ideal. There was a lot of abuse. At that time, you would have called it dysfunctional. I don't think that phrase is out there much anymore. My mother lived a life that was so abusive, and what she endured in her life, she managed to pass that abuse down to her children and her family. We very often, that level of abuse, the violence increased over the years. And it wasn't unusual. At Friday night, here comes the police to our house. But the problem with that was the next day, the crying and the begging and the pleading, don't leave me, I love you, I will never do that again. And for some reason, it was believed, and the hugs and the kisses, and everything was hunky-dory until the next time. Well, my mom told me, I was her only daughter, that I should never allow a man to put his hands on me. And she shared a plan with me. All it required is a tuna can and time. Well, you start by half opening a tuna fish can using one of those old-fashioned can openers. And preferably you use the tuna that was packed in oil. And when you're done opening that, you have a can that kind of looks like this. And then you take that tuna and you make it into the most wonderful sandwich, and you serve it to your man with a smile on your face, and he enjoys that tuna sandwich. When you go back into the kitchen, you take that tuna can, unwashed, and sit it in the window. For a week or so until it gets particularly nasty. And then when your man's asleep, you sort of uncover and you take a little nip. Now, it's not the physical part of that I found so nasty. My mother was truly evil, and you can't just cause the physical pain, but you also have to add that level of adding the germs and into the system, and which would really have a major effect on the body, and there was possibility for healing. And this is the way my mom thought. Now, I was told this about 20 years before Marlena Bobbert. And Marlena was able to get off, found not guilty because of insanity. Well, I don't think if anyone were to follow the plan my mother laid forward, any court in the world would say it was anything but premeditated. And so I recommend that don't listen to my mother.